November, a novel in a month, a book in a short period of time. But the focus is you getting your book done in a particular tight time frame. And we're looking at 30 days. 30 days of November, whatever you want to call it, book in a month, book in 30 days. This is your opportunity to make the most of what you can do in the month that is ahead of us. We start today, 1st of November, and we have our targets, we have our goals. If we're going to do that, then we're going to need to be fairly organised. We're going to need to have a plan. And I think we're also going to need to have, as much as anything else, we're going to need to have structure. Doesn't mean we have neat handwriting, but we have structure. How do we build our structure? I think we build our structure using a timetable, making sure that we can, with the time that we have over these 30 days, we can build something significant and that's going to make a difference to us. So I want to talk about some of that this morning with you. At the core of everything is the heart of your story. I found this beautiful stone on the farm in Cyprus last week, and it just caught my attention. I was walking back from the main house to my cottage, and it was a starlit night, and I could see it. It was just embedded in the earth with lots of other random gravel. But there it is, the heart of your story. It's really important. Who are the people? What is the direction of the story? What are the lessons, if there are life lessons, if it's a moral story, that's a different type of lesson. What are the challenges to you as a writer, but also to your character, to the people who are part of your story? And what is the arc of the story? All of these things matter. They are in different aspects or directions. But what matters is that you are able to incorporate within your story all the things which show the heart of the story. Let's take these off again. I have two thoughts in my mind today, and I'm going to go to the library and spend a couple of hours on each one today. One is to do a non-fiction a non-fiction book, and that will have a central message. It will have learning points. It will have 10 chapters. It will have tips in each chapter, and it will have a point of focus. The heart of the story, to use that analogy, the heart of my non-fiction book will be, what does this reader have a problem with, that if by buying and working through this book they can understand the scale of the problem, they can find their solution. So what I'm looking for is a solution to the reader's problems. And that's with non-fiction. I'll be, like I said, 2 hours in the library, and I should be able to plan out pretty much all of that book before lunchtime today. But you might not be writing non-fiction. You might be going for a story that is complex, but it's a story about people. So who are your people? Who are your characters? What are their challenges? So it's basically, what do they want? And what gets in the way? Let's call that an obstacle. And how do they overcome the obstacle to get to an outcome. Now, they'll do that through tears, through broken hearts, through war, through challenge, through, I don't know, industrial collapse. All sorts of apocalyptic things can fit easily into this, just as well as romance. But what is the heart of the story? Somebody here, several people in your book, are the core of your story. There will be secondary characters who are around them, but these are your core characters, your protagonists or protagonists and people around them. What are the challenges that they face? What do they want? I suppose in order to know what they want, you have to paint a clear picture of where they are now and how that will lead the story to develop. That will be very important. But here is what you are resolving as the story develops. The pace of your story, these movements around the heart of the message, are what people need to find, to discover when they read through the book. By the way, I find a little erasable board like this is sometimes very helpful. It's different from having pen and paper, but it serves a purpose. Let's put that over there. Right, back to basics. You've got 30 days. Let's look at an index card and do something on here. We've got 30 days. How are you going to split those 30 days into a productive outcome? We're starting here today. At the end of 30 days, we want to finish our book. So a lot of things have got to happen between now and then. And what we do with that time is a reflection on how we manage our time and what we do. Sorry, that sounds like I'm repeating myself. I am. We need we need to go from this start point, which is today, until the 30th. Ways that I will split that down is I will say to myself, at least, right, today is Saturday the 1st, so Sunday is the 2nd, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So those are my 7 days, Saturday to Friday. What can I do in this week? And what you do will be a replication of where you are each week as we go through the book in a month challenge. What can I do? Today I need to plan my book. I still don't know whether I'm going to go only non-fiction or non-fiction alongside a second crime fiction story. I think that's what I'm going to be doing. But then we're writing. On the Friday, I'm going to be writing and reviewing where I am. You can spend a huge amount of time. I don't know how fast you write. Let's say you write 500 words an hour, and we'll use that as a simple model. You may adjust the maths according to how you want. But let's say you write 500 words per hour, and you might write by hand, or you might use a phone and a mini keyboard like this, or you might have any other form of device. Right, so you write 500 words per hour. Now, if you're writing a novel, the goal traditionally of this challenge, under all its different names, Novel in a Month, National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, Book in a Month, whatever, is 50,000 words, which is about 1,700 words per day. And that's a challenge. If you're writing non-fiction, you could easily write 50,000 words, but you could write less. My non-fiction books are typically 35,000 to 55,000. similar sorts of targets. But you need to work out what your time availability is for the writing and how that fixes or how that focuses on your end target for the month. Let's say we're going for 50,000 words. So we have to look at 1,700 words per day to get us to the 50,000 target. Basically, I've got to put in about 3 hours a day at 500 words per hour. If I can get up to 800 words per hour, then I'm looking at just over 2 hours a day. Know your word rate, know your writing speed, know the link between whether you have a faster speed here or a more comfortable writing process using whatever form of pen you want on paper. So your knowledge in this situation will give you significant guidance on the way that you achieve your 50,000 word goal. You have a diary, you know whether you can write 2 hours or 3 hours or maybe 4 hours a day. This is a challenge, and therefore it is about stretching ourselves and finding places where we can meet our new goals. And to do that, there will be some real basic things that you need. So I'm going to look at how I am setting out my month in terms of what supports me, what doesn't support me. So for example, this month I have given up alcohol except for a Friday evening, right? So today's a Saturday. I had a beer last night with my supper, and I thought to myself, right, I'm going to make myself just a little bit more productive by being able to wake better, faster, with a clearer mentality. So I've got my coffee this morning. Those are coffee grains, by the way. So I've got my coffee, and I've also got several bottles of water in the house, so that every day I can have a couple of bottles of water alongside anything that I drink, such as my coffee. We need to be refreshed. We need to be alert. I've got my coffee. I've got my prompt cards. So I've got a bunch of index cards like these. These are clear ones. I've also got a batch of the lined ones that are just as useful. But then I've got various prompts that help me. An online friend, Fabio Serpelloni, produced this book 2 years ago, Any Language You Want. And it's what he calls a tiny book. So it has, what have we got? There we go. Cute picture of Fabio, FabioSerpelloni.com. Okay. 57 pages, 18 little mini chapters. Most of these a page and a half, 2 pages long. I was really inspired by this because most of my books, like I've said, are short, 35 to 55,000 words. So when I saw this with a smaller word count, I thought, wow, it is a good book. I've read it several times. One of my fellow tutors at the college where I was working last year, I lent it to him and he really enjoyed it. And basically this is a collection of true personal stories on how to master a second language. Great little book, but the point is, it's a tiny book. My friend in the States, in Texas, Tish Bouvier, last month published her first book, A Cozy Mystery, and I was so thrilled for her. So 2 of the people that I will be keeping to the front of my mind as I work on my next book this month are Fabio and Tish, because it's helpful and inspiring to see the work of other authors and the progress they make. 3 books that I've decided to keep on my desk this month are, one I've mentioned in 2 previous videos, How to Write Crime Fiction by Sarah Williams. And to me, I'm keeping that on my desk because I think I need a second crime fiction book in the Mexico City series. Connected to this, basically because I'm going to be writing every day and also trying to have a life, because what I'm doing is I'm squeezing those 3 hours a day into my existing diary of working activity, investment, producing videos for YouTube, and some of the work that I'm considering for next year. So this is Anne Lamott, Bird by Bird, some instructions on writing and life. It's light. I've had it for several years and enjoyed it, but it feels like it's a good time to go through this again during the month of November, book in a month. What do people say about it? A warm, generous and hilarious guide through the writer's world and its treacherous swamps. Superb writing advice, hilarious, helpful and provocative. And then this last one, a gift to all of us mortals who write or ever wanted to write, side-splittingly funny, patiently wise, and alternately cranky and kind. A reveille to get off our duffs and start writing now while we still can. And November is about writing now. It's not about putting it off. It's not about saying, I woulda, coulda, shoulda, I wish I had, I could have done, etc. It's about saying, no, we're in November. This is a book in a month. And this is a good, fun, light-hearted instruction. And then for light relief, that's not related to the writing world, I picked up this. I was in the Forest Park Hotel in Platres the other day. One of my favourite places in the whole world ever since I was a little boy and went there in the 70s. But there are plenty of books always near reception for guests to pick and choose. And this one, Dylan Thomas, A New Life by Andrew Lycett. Dylan Thomas was a romantic and controversial figure, a poet who had lived to excess and died young. An inventive genius with a gift for both lyrical phrases and impish humour, he also wrote for films and radio and was renowned for his stage performances. He became the first literary star in the age of popular culture, a favourite of both T.S. Eliot and John Lennon. My connection to Dylan Thomas is my dad was a huge fan of his work, and that involved various trips to Wales just to look at places where Dylan lived and where he raised his young family with his wife Caitlin, and to look at some of his work. I was only just a teenager then, but there were several trips to Wales, and that was an important part of me. And of course, the poem Under Milkwood, read by Richard Burton, remains one of the classics of audio experience. Dylan Thomas, A New Life. So those are the things I want to get on with during the month, just so that in the evening I can say, okay, I've written for 2 hours today or 2.5 hours. I need 20 minutes with a cup of tea before bed, and I'm going to dip into each of those books. Also, I think there will be times when I'm completely hacked off with the writing process and I will want to find some inspiration. And so to be able to look at these books and take light relief from them, or just to enjoy them, just to change the way my brain is working, that will be enormously helpful. What else? I think sometimes visual encouragement is important. In England, we live near a place called Saltaire, which has beautiful buildings. It was a village designed and constructed on behalf of an industrialist for the benefit of the workers. And there are some beautiful pieces of artwork. These are by Simon Palmer. And the actual original paintings are often hung in exhibitions in Saltaire. That's the church across from the main factory. But they are beautiful, and I get a great sense of peace when I look at these. And there are times when you're writing in November that you are going to wish you had something, excuse me, just to dip into, something to lift you for a moment. Something else, if you're writing fiction, might be helpful. I've had this one a while, it's a bit battered, but this is my Fabula deck. It calls itself a framework for fiction writers. I'm just going to take some coffee. Oh, I needed that. Right. So what this does, it has a little guidebook, but you have these different cards. These are asset cards, and you can, like it says, put them wherever you want in your story. These are aspects of the hero's journey. And these are the different stages that you take the reader through. So Act 1, the setup, you're introducing the characters and giving some preliminary info. Catalyst, the inciting incident that makes the plot move on. Act 2, rising action, introduce changes, enemies and new characters, etc. These are really great, just sometimes when you are stuck with your story, but also they're very helpful, and I know I'll be using them today and tomorrow in the planning phases of a new book. These are really helpful to put you in a place where you can see, not with total clarity, don't get too analytical and think that if you don't know every stage of your story you shouldn't write it. That's real plotter's procrastination. But a framework for writing fiction, a framework for fiction writers, the Fabula deck, is really helpful, and I will be using it in the Leeds Library later today. I'll be using it in my favourite coffee shop in Bradford tomorrow, and it will allow me to make sure that for the second Cesar book, based in Mexico City, I have a better understanding of where the book is going for this time than I did when I set out to write the one that I finished last month in Cyprus. So I'm going to use that, a Fabula deck, based on the 3-act structure and the archetypes of myth and tales, and it helps you to build and analyse your stories in a simple and effective way. Something that I find useful. And then the basics for me are a nice notebook. This one I bought again. I got this in Paulis the other week on the northwest coast of the Republic of Cyprus. So I'm going to use that for handwriting my notes. I've already got character ideas in here for one of the books, and I've got a moleskin and a pocket journal. Those are all the things that I need to start strong in my first week of novel in a month. If I could make a separate suggestion, I would say, obviously I'd say coffee and water and things like that, but also make sure that you've got some money set aside for snacks or fruit or whatever it is you might need as a little bit of food to nibble on while you're writing, because sometimes you'll be in the idea and the last thing you want to do is have to break to go to the shops to get some food because you didn't think about what was in the kitchen. And then also I think having audio, I write often to music, but I have very specific playlists. So for my Cesar, the detective, I have a 4-hour playlist on Spotify, and that will run from song to song every time I sit down to write. So it might be 2 hours through the playlist at the end of my first morning today. When I write again on Sunday, I will continue where I was and go round the playlist. On Monday, I'll be back at the start of the 4-hour writing. But I find that really helpful. Also, if I'm writing in a public space like a library or a coffee shop, it gently says, I'm a little bit focused. I'd appreciate not being interrupted. Thank you very much indeed. So those are my bits and bobs for novel in a month. I hope you have a productive time. I'm going to try and produce some more videos over the next few weeks. But let's do it. Let's get on with our books. Let's create what we need. And let's get a story that in first draft, rough draft, we can each be proud of by the end of November.